studio.
All right, Jody Cohen, thank you so much for that report. We want to continue this conversation now. For more on this possible ceasefire deal between Israel and Hezbollah, we want to welcome in former Trump National Security Council member Fred Fleitz, along with former congressional candidate and former Special Forces Green Beret Derrick Anderson. Great to have you both on this morning. Fred, I'll start with you. So is there a real chance that we see a ceasefire here, in your opinion?
I think there is, and we're hearing from Israeli officials this morning that we could be hours away from an historic deal. And this isn't simply pressure from Israel on Hezbollah and Lebanon to get to a deal. That's a big part of this operation. Donald Trump has endorsed the negotiations by Amos Hochstein, the Biden administration envoy who's pushing this deal. And I think Trump's endorsement has put pressure on both sides to come to an agreement. So I'm very optimistic.
Derrick, I just want to get your reaction, too.
Yeah.
Do you think that we will see a ceasefire within the next few days?
Yeah, like Fred was saying, I'm optimistic, but I also am always skeptical, right? When we're dealing with organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas, we've seen in the past over the last few months where Hamas has come to the table to negotiate some sort of ceasefire with Israel and Netanyahu, and then all of a sudden they pull the carpet out from underneath them at the last moment. So, I'm always skeptical, especially recently. We saw the ICC go after Netanyahu, which I think were bad intentions, threatening Israel. But we have to always remember the things of the past, right? October 7th, where thousands of Israelis were murdered and taken hostage. We still have about 100 hostages still being held by Hamas, including Americans. Hamas has, executed Israeli hostages. Iran firing hundreds of missiles over into Israel. So again, I'm optimistic. We want to see this come to an end, but we want to make sure Israel is on the right side of things.
So, Fred, just to be clear, we're talking about a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah out of Lebanon. This has nothing to do with Hamas. So the fighting in Gaza still will continue. Again, there's no peace negotiations there to bring back the hostages that have been kept there since October 7th of last year.
That's right. There's a chance of a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, but negotiations with Hamas have broken down. Qatar has decided to stop its mediation role between Hamas and other parties, and supposedly is going to kick Hamas out of the country. There was a vote in the UN Security Council recently on a ceasefire deal, but the U.S. vetoed it, fortunately, because there was no word of releasing hostages. So I'm afraid that there is not a ceasefire deal within sight with Hamas right now. I'm hoping that will change once Donald Trump is in the Oval Office again.
Derrick, just to follow up on that, we've been talking about these hostages. Again, it has been more than a year that they've been in captivity. For those that are still alive under Hamas's control, if there is a ceasefire deal reached between Israel and Hezbollah, do you see the chances of a ceasefire deal and a hostage exchange being released between Israel and Hamas?
Yeah, one of the things that I've always noticed, and we've seen this happen over the last year, is that when it's been reported that Hamas is coming to the ceasefire table with Israel, we always see something. For instance, when Hezbollah started attacking in the northern part of Israel, ended up going on a counterattack. We see Iran firing those hundreds of missiles into Israel. So, we are dealing with terrorist organizations. Organizations that don't play fairly, and so I always am hesitant to see when one of the parties do come to the table with Israel that the other two actors end up being, that is Iran and Hamas, start acting up again. So I would love to see these hostages come home for the sake of Israel and for their families. But again, I'm always skeptical with these organizations, specifically when we're dealing with terrorist organizations.
All right, Fred, Derrick, thank you so much for breaking that down for us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Well, President Biden holding a farewell dinner on the South Lawn of the White House. A whole lot